Same. Hello, this is Divine Sunshine for Divine Unisouls 11, and you have joined the Playground Experience. I have my co-host here, Kathy D, and I have my other beautiful co-host, April Williams. So today's is again, then there you go with it. Letting go of the old paradigm that we are getting into the new template that the universe is pretty much throwing us or propelling us to go into. We talked about a little bit, I think, on some of the other playgrounds about how some of the templates have already been put out there, especially like we were talking about the feminine and how they're supposed to be and where we again with everything that's going out in the world. Everybody keeps on talking about this new world, this new world, this new world that's supposed to be coming. And again, when we're talking about making that paradigm shift, that to me, they bring it to me is like it's on all levels right now. And we're pretty much kind of getting into that energies also with us pretty much on the outside in our bodies. We're getting it as far as we were even talking about that. That was in our talks about how our bodies are really now get to the point like our way our diets or where we're eating habits have kind of changed too. And so it's kind of really showing to us that we're really shifting into something really new, rather if we want to or not to. I almost say almost some of us going into a kicking and screaming. Rather you want to be a welcome participant, guess what? You have already been chosen, and your time is up now. Um, yeah, your time is up. I'm sorry. Just to give you that bearer of bad news, but your time is up with all this playing. So I'm gonna let April kind of go into it as far as like some of us, and she always has a wonderful way of describing, and so we can see it about that shift, that paradigm shift when we talk about what is the paradigm and as far as that, what are we going through?
Okay, well, I don't mean to alarm you, but I'm here to alarm you. Just kidding. That's basically what's happening. Hold on to your hat, son, because your asses are flying away.
Okay.
We are all feeling this shift. We all know there's a huge change. We are social creatures. The human being does not strive or survive on their own. In fact, it takes a huge 9-month period to even create a human being. Then to foster and guide and watch and care for a human being, they tell us in the United States 18 years is when they become an adult. But that even then, your brain is still growing and still molding and doesn't happen. Some people don't even stop growing until they're 37 years old, like height-wise. You know what I'm saying? So there's all this change and evolution that's constantly happening. Now, when we were talking about shifting paradigms, there was an old way that no longer serves. And it's such a huge shift that the entire human species is now going through a purging process. And we're losing a lot of human physical bodies, but their energies are still existing and shifting and helping us guide. Because when you leave your physical body, there's a lot of debate about what actually happens. And there are people who have had near-death experiences or come back from the dead, and they can give us all these kind of insights. But what they do say is that they do continue on, especially if there's a physical body, because they have something that's anchoring them into a storyline. Now, if we shift out of understanding we shift out of being anchored into our bodies, we can see a huge global perspective and everyone is moving together. We are no longer able to just isolate ourselves and pretend that the world doesn't exist or other beings don't exist, or when somebody else hurts, it doesn't hurt me, because now we are all feeling the hurt. We're all feeling the loss. We're all feeling the transition. And part of that is appreciation and gratitude towards what we're actually experiencing in the now moment. Or even looking at our story of where we came from to be in the now moment. because the future is all of possibilities. And we keep talking about going back to a new normal and da 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 da. Normal never really existed, and that is the key, I think, to our today's talk. Normal doesn't exist, but what you want to be and create can be, and what you want to release from the past it's totally possible. And we are here as a collective, as a group, to assist with that. I guess there's extra things here because there ain't nobody outside but a washing machine. Did y'all hear that? I was just like, we're all here to help us today. And as we shift into understanding that there's more than our physical bodies, and science is proving, and they're finally releasing information to us that we've already known all along, that they're or they're UFOs, extraterrestrial.
Mm-hmm.
And it's time for us to just get out of thinking we're the only ones. We had this whole period where, yes, it was just us for a while. We were the focus, but now we are the focus. So we're moving from the I to the I am, I guess, for lack of a better word, which is all encompassing. Well, okay, we're moving from the I to the we, and we collectively are shifting. And so that's kind of what it is. From old patterning to new patterning, because we aren't going to be able to fit anything into that old space that once was. We're not going to be able to do our shopping the same, our businesses the same, education the same. We are now reevaluating and figuring out what works, what doesn't work. And with the astrology that's coming out, that's already been in motion, it's one of those times where it's the end of one paradigm and the beginning of another. It's the end of the old ways and the beginning of the new ways. And we can take with us some of the traditions and some of the things, right? Because our bodies are of our ancestors. Our DNA is created, and our bodies were created by our mothers and fathers. And now we're shifting into, okay, what are we creating for the future generations?
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be our huge, huge shift into the new paradigm.
Yeah, well, as yeah, you did good. As I'm listening to you, I hear pretty much it's like I like how you said about it's not a new new normal. It's like what is normal, and that is true. And that goes back to we said that pretty much a lot of times on our show. That again, you're ever evolving, you're ever changing, it's ever fluid, ever constant. Um, and understanding that the things that are happening now, which are things that, of course, yes, we didn't ask for them to happen, but at the same time, they're bringing a wake up call to us to, like you're saying, about the patternings that we have pretty much came up with that were unhealthy individually, uh, relationships as far as how we connect with one another, and then expanding that out to a world global standstill as far as how we have done it. Some of us, the old template, we had gotten to the point that we had been so reliant and codependent on each other. But at the same time, we had forgotten our identity. I think about the template that's always pretty much always enforced when we're talking about like social media, how things are on the outside and how they reinforce us to kind of like stay back in that box. Women are supposed to be this way. Stay back in this box. Men are supposed to be this way. And this now, the like you said, when we come out of this, everything is going to have a brand new sense of how we're going to be able to move and interact with others. As far as us coming out and socializing, I was listening to that today. They was talking about in the restaurants, and some of the restaurants, even on the news, were saying this is killing us because you only 10 people can gather, and we're already behind the 8 ball and things of that nature. As far as school and the education system, and how they're saying they're going to be able to educate, like some of them are thinking, some states are thinking about maybe having two not so many kids in the classroom, like 2 days you in the classroom and the rest of the days you at home doing remote. So that goes back to what you're saying about everything is being changed. What we thought was the normal is now being changed. We hope, hopefully, for the better, or it's another way of looking at it that really sees that no matter what of how it is it for the better or for the good? They're telling me it's still a change that has to happen because again, what we were doing was not working. So Kathy, how about like the changes that we're seeing as far as in the new to the old, as far as the mindset? Because I call you the one, the Jedi mind master, the Jedi master. So what
Um,
is that looking like these days?
the mind changes that we have to get out of, and a lot of people don't like to admit it, and we're all guilty of it. We have been taught in a way such as sheep. And if you have any familiarity with sheep, they will follow anything that seems to protect or provide. You give them food, they follow you. You give them, you start that repetition, you feed them, they come. They come to you, they come to you, and then they'll follow you. Um, and even in one of the greatest selling books, we talk about that, we are sheep. Um, so a lot of our thought process has been fed to us that way.
Mm,
Well, if my parents said that, if my teacher said that, if my civic leader or church leader or government leader, and we follow these people because of the trust. They give us a sense of protection, and we follow that, and it's scary. It is scary to step out and say, I hear what you're saying, but I'm not real sure I follow that idea that women should make less money than men. I don't really, and these are my reasons why. I'm not just saying go off willy-nilly on these things, but there are things that innately in our minds go red flag, red flag. There's something not right about that. Um, and so that's where we start now, especially many of us have already started stepping out on that, questioning it. We talk about how, being assertive, then you're seen this way, or having a type of voice, you're seen this way. Think about it, even body styles, people that are overweight, they're lazy. It's just all of these mindsets that have been put into us, and
mm-hmm,
they're going to start changing. And we're going to start stepping out. And those that resist, those that first step out, it's going to be scary because it's unknown, but then it's going to be free. Those that resist are going to have the hardest time with this whole new idea of new earth and what we accept, and accepting people for who they are, not what they are, what they look like, or anything like that, but that inner peace, that soul on a soul level.
Well, we're starting to feel vibrations now too. Right? Everybody's calling out vibes. It's now the popular vernacular to say, "Oh, yeah, we got the vibe," which is cool. I don't mind because
been
we.
saying that.
Hmm?
I said I've been using that. I call it energy, a vibe. I've been
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like now we're talking about it in popular culture music. So
right.
that's what I'm saying. It's finally reached mainstream. People have been telling me, "Man, I like your vibe. I like your vibration for the last few years." So I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I can dig it, but it wasn't a popular.
It wasn't. Probably.
Mm-mm.
But I want to challenge us. I really want to challenge us, and I want to say, I am all, and all is me, right? I believe this wholeheartedly. How did we each individually cause this shift in the collective? I'm gonna put it out here. It's kind of brute. So I have a Libra moon, okay, so it's really difficult for me to be offensive. But I think this coronavirus is everybody's fault. We all wanted a break. We all wanted some time off. We all wanted to spend time with our family. We knew some shift was coming. Some of us even had these like world domination, like really angry at the world, wanting a huge population to kind of just fall off, or giant fires to start, or some kind of earthquake. I mean, I felt that kind of energy roll through people. The rage that people throw at me just for doing something kind. When you're hitting them at the wrong vibration, it just hits them in a way where they're like, F you, get off the road. I want you and your family. You know what I mean? Like, what is this? Where is this? And I think that this has to do with partially us purging out things that don't really flow with us. But at the same time, we entered into a state of, here we are as a collective. We are all forced now into a specific area. We are forced to slow down because everybody's like, I just want to slow down. I just feel like the world's going too fast and I need to take some breaths. And the earth, we met that vibration and we all kind of had a huge shutdown. And the hole in the ozone is starting to shrink on the basis that we're slowing down. We're now evaluating all the issues like domestic abuse and stuff where people are now stuck in an environment. And we're like, okay, how can I stand up for this person? I've had some people do some shout outs on different social medias. Like, how do I enter into this space and help these people without tearing a family apart or having someone put in child protective services while they're in lockdown? You know what I mean? And then all of these things are finally surfacing. All of these issues that we're having with politics are finally surfacing because we're now slow enough to do it. Now, some of us are numbing out, old school style, media binge, social, all of these things. And so, I mean, I kind of want to put it out there as, because we're all seeking comfort, and we're all seeking comfort the way we thought we knew how to receive comfort. But a lot of us in these shifting vibrational circles are having digestive issues. Some people are having body pains, headaches, all these old things are coming out. Yeah, me too. You know what I mean? Some of us getting nauseous, not wanting to eat because of all this shifting and stuff that's happening. So
is doing it too. She's not eating either. I had to tell my mom, I was like, she's not eating because she's ascending. She's feeling it too.
And so, yeah, so it's clearly the collective. It's clearly all of our energies now shifting into this other mode. We cannot we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater of the past and these ideas, but we are now realizing we don't necessarily need all of it. And we don't need to eat what we need to eat or like what we used to eat for comfort. We now need to eat for nutrition. How can we best serve and help our bodies to build better immune systems? But what's tricky about this immunity thing is we need social interaction to build proper immune systems. And so now we're reevaluating how that is, because that's how immunity is, right? Like I said, was it the last one? The last studies on microorganisms to the human body is 12-1. So you have 12 times as many other organisms living on and in you than you do you. So when you think that you're just you, like, reevaluate that. And so what kind of host are you? Are you hosting the negative things? Are you building up yeast like candida and stuff like that? Are you eating all this stuff that's not working with your system? Or are you shifting to foster those that actually help benefit your system? So that's what we're doing. We're constantly shifting. So how do we shift? How do we shift even our minds? Kathy D.
You have to shift your mind. You have to come. Not right. You have to come into the realization to what you don't believe anymore. And it's one of those things that more than likely as a child, it kind of set up red flags for you. It can be anything, it can be simple or it can be monumental. I remember as a teenager getting in so much trouble for getting up and walking out of church because the priest said that angels were people. And I was like, well, there can be angels on earth, yes, but they're not the same. They're a different vibration. I knew that as a teenager, that they were a different vibration. And he kept saying it. And I leaned over to my mom and I said, yes, one more time and I'm out of here. And she said, you will sit down. And sure enough, he said it one more time. And I was like, this is so not right. I can't sit here and listen to it. And I got up and walked out. That was probably about the longest 30-minute ride home I've ever had in my whole entire life. But it's those kind of things. We need to go back and reevaluate those things that didn't sit well with us as children, as teenagers, especially as teenagers. I really think because we were really coming into what we believed and what we stood for. Is it, equal rights, that everybody deserves the same? Is it that, and then going to that on, how people eat and how people are, receive things, and as a community, what doesn't work? What really stood out to you that it didn't work, that wasn't fair, or what you felt wasn't fair? And then look into that. And you'll see like a lot of the beginnings of these old paradigms that don't no longer work. And you'll start to develop yours. Now, with that being said, and as we go into this, we're never done. There's always changing. And we have to understand that there's no normal, just like April said. We constantly are adjusting that situation. We are constantly kind of tweaking it. When you're in a community and you're working with other people, what works for, X, Y, and Z might not work for A, B, and C. And you've got to be able to adjust that so it's works for everybody. I say to my students all the time, they tell me that's not fair. I said, fair is not everybody getting the same thing. Fair is everybody getting what they need. And that's where we need to take that idea of fair and be able to twist the way we view things. And it's not being inconsistent. It's being actually very consistent. Because if a boat was off kilter in the water and it started to tip this way, you're naturally going to go the other way so you don't go off a boat. It's self-preservation. I mean, we move with the flow, with the ebb and the. You're not going to go, if the boat starts going down, you're not going to run toward the side that's going down. You're going to run to the higher side. One, to even out the boat, and two, to, stay on the boat. And that's the way I think our beliefs need to start going. But we need to go back and evaluate what really stood out to us as kids, as teenagers, and then step back and see, where we need to adjust those, or, what do we need to completely throw out? Because there are some things that we are believing, and even I'll go as far as saying, even in the twin flame dynamics, there are some things we really need to kind of throw out of there. A lot of these, if you've gone through YouTube and you've seen where they say, well, 10 steps to know if this is your twin flame. Some of those are pretty crazy when you look at them. And everybody has their own situation. So you have to kind of do that ebb and flow of what it means. And you can't sit back and say defiantly, this is or this isn't. That's for you to decide. And we have to be okay with that. So that's some of the things that are going to start clearing out. And I think we're going to start seeing a lot of shifting in what people say as definitions of things.
Since
I
we're
think
bringing,
what you're saying about the ship. Okay, so you guys, I keep trying to post these videos. Like I'm making these videos, and they're coming out, and all this information, and okay, once it allows me to publish it, it is about anchoring in the 5D and the trip about the mothership, and how you're using that metaphor of the ship and how we're anchoring in certain energies, and how we brought here on the by our motherships to another type of mothership is really what it is, and we're really floating as a higher energy coming in onto this plane, into this reality. The only reason we consider ourselves the way we do is because a long time ago somebody created a false narrative about there being a hierarchy of species. And within that hierarchy, we decided we were going to classify ourselves based on sex as well. When a true mother understands that there is no hierarchy, there's just distribution of resources and what's available and what's not available. And, you know, may your needs be your wants, because you may want to have the skin of an elephant or, you know, the skin of a tiger, but you have your human skin, and how you work with that is, you know, and then there's just so many different layers of helping heal ourselves from over classification, because that's part of our indoctrination of where we're at in society right now. But we're no longer in survival as an individual, we're in survival as a species, and working with each other species, because that's how we keep true balance. Even within our bodies, if we look at our bodies as a microcosm of the macro, you got to keep your yeast in check. You got to keep your bacteria in check. You have to keep your, you know, you got to wash up. There's a song, I'm going to sing it. This is adult, so you got to wash your ass if you must. You got to brush your teeth if you must, or else you'll be funky, right? And we are being kind of funky and needing to cleanse ourselves and get rid of that which no longer serves. That's which is out of balance. And I like that, looking at fairness, that concept of fair, because what you may want for you, you can want that for somebody else, but if that's not what they need, then you're now imposing something that's going to throw them off balance. And we don't have to want the same things. It's okay to be different. It's okay to have different things. And it's all right to want a different type of education, right? We all say there's like the whole issue with who wins the battle, right? It's the history book. And so there's a lot of lost information of great tribal leaders and Africa, and specifically I'm looking at Africa, because a lot of that information is lost to us here in the United States. They just want to confuse us and tell us, here's the battle. They sold you and you are slaves, and that's your energy. That's where you come from. And that's like, no, that's not where we come from. We come from great people, and how we traded and how we were taken advantage of and being brought to other places that weren't ours and then told to work. That's a whole nother story that we are now processing as a community. Now that we're forced to kind of sit still, we are now feeling these energies of unrest uprise. And, you know, yeah, it's not necessarily an easy thing, but it's something that's happening. And so we get to acknowledge and shift that.
I want to bring several things in mind too. You were talking about, let's just shift into that. I remember, it'll come back to me. I think another thing, when we're talking about how we kind of got off, you talked about the balance of how we asked and we called for this to happen. We called on it in our spirits. We did. We also mimicked back to what Mother Earth was doing, because Gaia was doing a lot of calling to action and saying, with all the weather things that were going on. And so us as beings, we were reflecting that from what Mother Gaia was doing. And so now we see with the ozones, now with this total shutdown, she can be able to heal herself from that. I think about what you're talking about, Kathy D, about the children and them not understanding what is fair. And I want to pose this question, because I was reading a book, and while you all were talking, I wanted to get and find that book, which is called, because if I touch it, I'm scared I'm going to lose the title, which is called The Coddling of the American Mind by Greg Lukianoff and Jonathan Hadd. And I was reading that for a while, and it was talking about, I think, also us as far as a society and where we were going. The train was going way off of the track. And he was saying in his book, he was talking about how we had gotten to the point that we were not using the principle of charity when we talk to each other. Every time somebody would talk to someone, it's always that they had bad intentions. So he talked about this person that was over in the university Was it in Harvard? It's been a long time since I read this book, but I remember when it was fresh. And she was talking about it was some class, and she had made this kind of statement that, not to get on the racial issue, but it's just an example. And whatever, let's say it's sexist thing that was stated, and at the university it was stated, and the people just went way off the rails about this one little statement that was made. And he was saying, he was noticing that it's a pattern of those things. People saying certain ways in colleges about things that were stated, and people, because of their sensitivity, were, so sensitive that at the point that we have not built like a tough skin when we're talking about as a society. And how it's just like one after another. You say something and you're censored. You do this, you're censored. And he was like, what happened to people building like a tough skin? And then also, like, we got to the point that, like, nobody is the loser. All of the both teams in the Pee Wee League, you're a winner, you're a winner. No, but they didn't win. But we're going to say everybody won because it's fair to everybody, because we don't want to hurt the little kids' feelings. So at the same time, when you're talking about the unbalance, and I liked in that book he was talking about it, the point, we've got to the point that we are coddling to, we can't really have a freedom of speech. Or if we would do it, somebody will be, like you said, they stand up, they will get beat down for it, or they're misunderstanding. They're like, that's not really actually what I was saying. I was saying this. And somebody might say, well, she sounded racist to me, or they sounded sexist to me. Has it gotten to the point that in society, this is why we have this kind of shutdown of everything? Because to me, in some ways, like this book, if I based upon what he's saying, morally, and we have become morally corrupt. And in some ways, this is why we are having this shutdown, as the morality or the ethnicity of the human period in the 3D is like, we have to shut it down, and we got to start recreating back over again from square one, because we've kind of, our principles have gotten thrown off. So I'm throwing this out to you, is that, again, when you're saying about the universe has brought this on and we've caused this ourselves, in some ways it's because of a lot of things, whether we're talking about on the 3D, the psychological, the mental, the spiritual. This is why in some ways we had caused for, or called on this moment of stopping all the chaos. And let's kind of, like, in some ways, I know the conspiracy saying that we want to have a currency of one, or let's think spiritually, we shut it down so we can have a mindset of just one idea morally for everybody to kind of like go off of, as far as us as a world, as a nation, as a society, coming together. And I do agree. I think there's some kind of way in our spirits we did call for this moment to kind of happen, because again, I agree with him. It's like some things we see that Kathy and I do in the classroom. Is like, who taught you that? Because I mean, you just, I don't know how we gonna make it. I know you say watch your words, but you're sitting there saying, I don't know how we gonna make it. I mean, I don't see any, like, I know even I'll say in my classroom with the kids, if they fight, you fight them back. Well, who told you that? My mama did. So, I'm just going ahead and haul off and hit them upside the head. And it's like, okay, now if everybody has that philosophy, where we gonna end up as a society, as a world? So that's why I kind of agree with what you're saying. It's like, it's got to like pump the brakes, because we're getting way off it. The way, men look at women. I seen that a long time ago where we're changing, shifting, but maybe I'm going off on a tangent. But my thing is, I see why this has all came together as a combination of things. And I agree with the book that I was reading here. I think we got to the point we were calling too much. And that's another reason why everything has came to like a standstill as well, because our principles and values, we're not understanding. It's okay to get hurt. It's okay to not be the loser. It's got to be an even balance. Everybody can't walk off the Pee Wee League and say, I'm the winner. And you're like, you didn't do nothing. You just missed all them daggone balls, and you the winner. Okie dokie. So that's
And I think that's the only reason social bullying or social media bullying, what do they call that? Cyberbullying works
Cyberbullying.
because they've isolated and then they've created that there's no differences, but there are differences. So you have to see what's wrong in order to change it. You have to see what needs improvement to actually improve. Okay? So we're looking at systems. Okay, first of all of us are sexist, all of us are racist, and all of us are ageist. It's just a varying degree.
Right.
We
That's true.
classify.
Very true.
We classify. That is one of the things we do. We classify from the beginning. That berry's safe to eat. That one will give you the runs. That one will make you see things. You know what I mean? And then you adjust your diet accordingly. So, and then we can't deny what's been happening for hundreds of years in terms of oppression or, things that are backlogged that we're flushing out. If this person comes from this family that's abusive and they start to show abuse, we don't say, oh, well, let's just ignore it. It'll be okay. We'll just give them a Band-Aid, tell them it's good. It's like, no, let's look at why they are abusive. Let's look at all of the things that are functioning. I think if we allow possibility for change, change happens faster. There's an adage within the faith community, particularly if you're Christian, but when what is for you will, what is it? What is for you can never be taken away from you. It's just a matter of time. And then when there's a will, where there's a will, there's a way. And if God is for something, you will always
can be against you. Yeah.
Could be against you.
So if we think open-mindedly in that respect, that's the reason we had to come to this point where you ask the question of, what the heck? Where did this come from? How do we adjust that? And I think that's where we are able to then create a platform for, well, where do you see that? You have to have the interaction with the child as an individual. Like, you will survive and you will thrive. And I know that your parent is your immediate survival, so you conform to that adult. But when you get to a group setting, what helps with this group setting? Because, if let's say the child is male and, no, that's not a good example. I was going to go towards, you don't pee the same way, no matter what. You're not going to clean yourself the same way that your mother would clean herself. You have to learn a new process. You have to create for yourself. You may come from this being, but you don't have to take everything that they're doing literally as the thing that you have. And that's one of the things I think is most important, is how we raise our children to have self-confidence, to understand themselves, but to know that they're different than each other. And it's especially important to be different as it is to learn how to flow and compromise. Because you may want ice cream. Like, my sister doesn't like chocolate. Okay. And I love chocolate. No, it's more chocolate for me, you guys. Why? It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. It's more chocolate for me.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And so when it's time to give her, like, okay, we're different than most people. We don't like cake. We like pie. So on our birthdays, we want pie or cobbler or something like that. And, is it going to offend somebody that I want a pie for my birthday instead of a cake? You could still put a candle on it.
Right.
And so coming at it from that non-attached position, but still offering the space for them to get what they need. And I think that's going to be, there's too many conflicting yet converging thoughts at the same time. We are here to stand for what we believe in and what we're aiming for in society. And we know that you are going to stand for what you believe in, but just make sure it's actually where you believe in, right? Because a lot of us are cleaning now. We're cleaning our digestive tract. We're forcing ourselves on fast. And unfortunately, some people aren't even able to access foods. So there's a purging that's happening when you fast. When you fast, your body does all kinds of really interesting resets. And it starts to purge out things that it didn't need. And then you start to become more sensitive to taste, sound, smells, different things like that. And so now it's time for you to evaluate what can stay in your life and what needs to leave from your life. And a lot of it comes from ideologies. And you'll find that I found that as I've switched my diet throughout the years, because I was slowly given the inclination to switch to a more vegan diet, more vegetables, things like that. And my immune system is pretty rock solid in terms of the habits and what I'm ingesting and how I clean my food and what I've done for my son, right? And so, you know, you get to listen now to your inner pings. I'm not saying be like me. I'm saying listen to yourself, because you ultimately are the guide of your experience. And I would never impose my systems on someone else's system.
Mm-hmm.
I would allow them to come up with theirs. So if you find yourself in kind of conflict, or we find our kids in conflict, we get to take them aside. And what do you really believe? What do you really think? That's a reaction. You want to hit this other kid because they did whatever. But you know that's your friend, and they just had to deal with something at home, and they're lashing out, and it's not even about that situation. So let's be real. Let's come from the highest self of the kid. The kid has more knowledge than we do about where they're coming from.
True.
And that's part of it, is healing. A lot of this stuff is turning people to big babies. Like they want to pretend like they were adults.
Mm-hmm.
Until they got to the point where it's like, where's my mom? I don't know what's going on, right? I don't know what to do with myself. I'm inside and I'm done binge watching CSI. Just kidding, that's not my show. But I'm just saying.
That is true. Yeah.
So what are the children saying? What are they saying? Oh, you know,
the children, about what's going on being inside right now with the time.
I'm sorry, can you repeat what the question was?
What are the children now? You mean just in general, what the children are saying, or what are they saying about being isolated? How's they feeling about
I would say a combination.
Okay.
I would say in the moment, if there's a conflict or something in the moment, what does that mean? Right?
Yeah.
And then integrating the fact that we have human bodies. When you know how kids are so wiggly and they're so ready to move, and they're just like that. That's actually our truest self. Our truest being comes in here like a battery. You know, you give it some food and it goes for days. It's ready to go. So we need to keep moving. We need to keep our bodies moving. We think that if we sit still, because they get one of my chiropractor from Alain Decane, he used to say the new cigarette is a chair. Right? It's a really bad habit to be sitting and still in a fixed position. That is not what the body is meant for. The body is meant for movement. The bed is also usually a very bad thing because of how it forces the body to relax in certain ways. It's not actually healthy for your spine. So you can see yourself having chronic pain and different things like that. Like, have you guys ever experienced when you lay on the floor versus when you lay on a bed? You can do a little experiment.
Yeah.
Lay on the floor for 10 minutes. And then move on around, and then lay on the bed for 10 minutes. Did I say floor first?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've actually found that my back feels better when I lay on the ground, when I lay on the floor versus laying on the bed. You can be comfortable, but how it feels when you're done moving, when you get up to move, that's what's important.
Okay.
Because we are built for movement. So being still isn't really something we do unless we're resting.
Mm-hmm.
So, and my problem is just getting up. So, you know.
Here we go.
I lay on the floor. I lay on the bed. It's just the transition between the two.
Mm-hmm.
I can see myself when I'm exercising. Like sometimes I just don't want to lift my legs up. Like, you know how they're like, jog in place or lift your feet, get those feet off the ground. I'm like, but my thighs are just so, you know, they're just so happy right here. Do I really need to?
I have one with this. Let's call this exercising in stillness. There you go. Yeah. I don't feel like doing that. I don't want to do that. You brought up some good, and that's going to move into the next thing. So we talked about what we see in a little bit of the old. So what is it that we can do intentionally to kind of shift ourselves or be okay with the shifting of the old to the new paradigm? I heard you say about sometimes some people go kicking and screaming into it. But what can we do to say, okay, you know what is here? You got to surrender to it. It's not going to change. It's not going away. New paradigm of living, a new way of we're going about it. What can we do to be okay with it? To say, okay, it's here now, or should I just keep on kicking and screaming? Because again, and I remember it now. The Scorpio moon is bringing on to a fork in the road. So we've got to really decide, like, are you going to stay where you are? It's like the Matrix. That's what I thought when we said about the paradigm too. I forgot about that. I said I feel like it's like the Matrix. It's like stay. It's either blue or red pill. Which pill are you going to take? You're going to stay where you are you going to come and take the pill, the red or the blue pill? It's like the Matrix. So that's like that shift that you call it. It's like you see the reality, live in the reality that you are, but at the same time be able to see, like they said, the Matrix, the numbers. It's like, oh, this is a number sequence. This phone has got a number. This is not really my phone. My hand is going through the phone, like that. It's going through the phone. So, what should we do to help us to kind of make that push to say, okay, it's here, dearie darling. So I've got to go into it.
Compassion. I think we need to get rid of this whole political correct garbage that protected everybody, supposedly protected everybody. We need to have compassion. We need to have empathy and understanding. Be brave enough to say, I understand exactly what you're saying, but I believe. There's nothing wrong with but you have to be open to another person's point of view. When I did my life coaching where I studied in Scotland. So my professor was Scottish. And I loved it. I used to just laugh and laugh and laugh. And he thought it was so funny because as he talked about the Americans and our politically correct. And it was so interesting to hear how the different lives went. And we really sounded like we were in a playpen because we were so worried about saying anything that might, and that's the whole word, might offend someone.
Right, that's the coddling. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we've got to get to that point where we are adults and can say, I understand your point, and this is how I feel about it, but I can see where you came to that conclusion. We've got to grow up. That's really and truly the bottom line. We've got to grow up. We've got to quit being coddled. We've seen it even in our poverty system. They say that once you've gone 3 generations in poverty, it is so hard for them to get out because it's so known. Now, and you and I as teachers, we see it every day. We see kids rise up out of it. Mm. But when we look at the numbers, there aren't that many that do. And that's where, as a society, we have to say, I understand why you're scared. I understand why you feel this way. But I believe in you. You can do this. We're behind you. And we have to be adults about it. We can't sit around and wait for somebody to hold our hand, or like April said, I want my mommy. It's not happening. And we have to do it for society, and we have to do it for our country and our world and our children. Because as long as we stay with this politically correct, you might offend someone, garbage. I hate to say it, but that's really what it is. We're just going to coddle more. And there is, I understand kind of why it started. There are things that shouldn't be brought up in a workplace and spoken about, but then it just kind of exploded. And we just have to have that compassion and that empathy and that understanding that people are people. We've got to, there was one great thing in one of the ads, I think it was Matthew McConaughey did about staying home. This disease doesn't see race, creed, or color. It's nothing. It doesn't matter what sex you are. It doesn't matter your education level. It gets everybody. It really took us back to a even balance. It didn't matter how much money you had. It could get you. It didn't matter how much you didn't have. Didn't matter if you had a PhD. I mean, we've seen it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter your age now. We're starting to see those fluctuate. Everybody was fair game. And we've got to get back to that. Not everybody being fair game, but everybody being an important person, no matter where they are.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice. What I'm noticing in our conversation is we're using old lingo to create something new. And, you know, honestly, I have a baby. He's only 16 months. And I coddle him. I coddle the love out of him or into him because he's such a sweet, sweetheart. And it's not that we need to coddle adults, but we really do need to love and care for children and let them understand boundaries, understand that they don't always get everything they want in all ways because it's not actually balanced or healthy for them.
Right.
Right. And we as the parents or we as the guardians, we actually set the perimeters and boundaries for their experience. Because a lot of people are like, I had to grow up really fast. One of those kids that was, you know, having to take care of and feed the family and do all this stuff by the time I was like 9 and all of that. And I think that there could have been some times there where I should have been allowed to be a child, right? And there's something about having the novelty of being a child. You're allowed to then be more fully an adult, and you don't crave coddling as much, actually. And there's a sense of speaking to someone so they can hear you, or shocking someone so they can hear you. And there's a range in between. So as you're learning yourself and how you best learn to change, or you best take on new concepts, what works best for you, right? And it can be different than for somebody else, but always find out where you're coming from so that you can act with integrity. Because integrity is going to be the main thing that gets us through here. It's this falsifying and attempting to be like somebody else or be another way in order to be accepted, that you're never really going to be accepted because you don't accept yourself.
Right.
You don't accept your limitations. So-and-so wants an open relationship. Well, I don't do open relationships. I do all eyes on me, okay? Attention. That's what I want from my mate. And that's okay to have that line. And, oh, well, they give me all the attention I want, but they disrespect my body. Oh, then that's it, honey. Guess what? No, they disrespect you in that sense. And you get to say that to your respective partner. And if they don't respond accordingly to your needs, right, and your desires, then you guys get to reevaluate that situation. And you can either come back together or take that space that you need and allow for more to come in. And, you know, that's it. It's ultimately having respect for your body, your temple, having respect for somebody else's body and temple. And like Kathy D is saying, coming into respect of the union, respect of that other being, because we are one, but we are also separate at the same time. Our emotions are just fractalized versions of each other's emotion. There's a movie called I Heart Huckabees that I really enjoy. It's really funny. It's a kind of a Buddhist type of philosophy movie. But he sees the guy and he's going to tears and he's like, those were my emotions. That's how I felt, you know? And he realized that we all are connected, and it doesn't have to be in linear moment to moment time, but it does all circle around. And if you want a better place or a better environment, start with yourself. Start
Right.
with what's within you. Stand true for that, and hold the ground for other people to stand true for themselves. And you don't have to agree. It's okay to come and from different places. It's okay to disagree. You know, it's all right.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that in order for us to create that shift, it all begins and ends with you. And then from that point on, it radiates out, just like the circle, the patterns that behind April, in order for us to be able to have that paradigm shift. Once you start, that's the purpose of us being light workers and coming into this being and where we are in this position in the world right now is understanding that again, and that's a philosophy I always say when it comes to light workers. We're not here for other people to change our minds. We're here to change their minds with that. And so once you start living in integrity, like I've always said on this show, that from that point on, it helps other people to be able to be comfortable for them to live in their integrity as well. They might not at first accept it, but after a while, when you keep on coming to them in that order, in that way, they will learn how to respect that. And in turn, some ways you'll find them mimic it. That's another way of looking at it. They say, oh, well, you're living in her truth. Yeah, at first I was kind of envious of it, but you know what? Something about that saying, you know what? Why be envious of that? Why won't I be able to live in my stand in my truth too? And not coming from that place, as Kathy has said, that immaturity of not willing to grow, but try to tear them down too at the same time.
Yeah,
And
that's a big one.
what you say, April?
That's a big one. You know, there's that opposite reaction, right? Instead of growth, some people have a shutdown because they don't know how to identify themselves anymore. That they
Right.
try to bring everybody into this negative spiral. But one of the things I found to be very helpful is just reach out to someone if you're slipping off. If you find yourself off and like, I don't know where I fit in this world, find someone that you actually truly care about that actually is uplifting you.
Right.
And if you can't, I guarantee you'll be able to find someone via social media or via one of these groups that we've got going on, and that will help. They will just even just to listen to you and help you grow in the space where you are. You know, you are a valued, wonderful being, and we thank you for being.
Yes.
So continue to be, and it's okay to change, right? Because nothing is forever. Even a rock, even a mountain throughout time can get worn down and change shapes and shift. And it's constantly doing that. So even though you may be the rock for others, your shape will change because the others are interacting with you. And that's
Beautiful.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is a beautiful thing. So that is as light workers, it's important for us, or even as twin flames, that it is important for us to be able to go with the changes and for us to be the change and become the change at the same time too. When we're talking about this paradigm shifting, do you want to do an exercise, April, at this time? Or anything?
I have something coming through, and it's been coming through for like a day, and that's gonna be different for me. But we're gonna take some breaths, and I'm gonna sing tones that are
Oh,
just gonna come out of me, and then
okay.
you're gonna let them resonate where they resonate, or you're gonna see if some picture comes up in your mind's eye. And I'll only do this for a couple minutes, so we'll see how it goes from there. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So let's take 3 deep breaths together. I like three. There's 3 of us. Okay. And we're going to go in through the nose, out through the nose.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. In through the nose and 3, 4, out through the nose. Ooh, that was hard. Let's breathe in again. In again. Now, as you breathe, I want you to notice if you're having issues with inhaling or exhaling. No judgment. I want you to notice if there's any tension in your body. Just keep breathing and allow your body to speak to you. Allow your temple to awaken its wisdom. Okay, take one deep closing breath, bring you back into the now. I want you to move your body, kind of shake it a little bit. I want you to comb your aura with your fingertips. Just comb all the angles, the front, the back, just let it go. Ooh. I suggest that when you have time to do something similar and go through the vowels, the A, I, O, U, ow, and you see where it's rising through your body and where it resonates and where it sticks and where it pings, because we're just awakening ourselves. A lot of us are just awakening. Some of us are already in the journey, but we need to rebalance and recalibrate, because things keep cycling back through, and it's really fun for I'm using fun lightly here, people, air quotes, fun, for some of us. But the kids, they got it. The kids are flowing, or at least they're trying to flow with their parents, or trying to with what's around them. And they're the most in need of us being present. So the pinging and the noise allows you to become present and see where your bodies are. Anyway, how did the sounding feel for you?
The grounding felt good. What I seen was like a window, and it was purple and pink. It almost looked galactic, like I was looking outside. For me, it was interesting. I just seen like a star with like stars and like really looked like the Milky Way. Like is that the nebula? It was something that had like pink and stars. It was that swirl that has that pink and it's out there in space. I can see it. Is it called a nebula something?
I know what you're talking about, but it's that swirling, right? That swirling with the star energy in the middle, but it's like flecks of star energy, dust coming, that molten shape.
Yeah.
But it was moving, right? It was moving. Beautiful.
That's what I see. Teacher.
How about you, Kathy D? What was it like for you?
I felt tingles like all through my body, arms, legs. And then with my eyes closed, the first sound I saw like a tiger's eye, not the stone, but the physical eye. And then as you changed it, it morphed into people's eyes. Like just one eye, just a single, but it went from an animal to like a human.
Eye of the tiger.
I'm ready to fight.
What I was seeing was the collective shifting and opening up and allowing for change. And then I felt like almost like a heavy cloak being pulled off of me. Which felt like it's being pulled off of all of us. Like we are now seeing behind. We've been hidden under this little blanket where we are safe, but also removed. And so now we're getting into a space where we're now collective and allowed to be who we are. And we're clearing out the crown and third eye area. We're no longer being masked by what has been fooling us or serving us to stay in this smaller, tucked under feeling. We're now opening and blossoming. And then there was it looked like a flower that was ever fold, ever opening, you know. And so it was really clearing. It was borderline light languagey. Like I didn't go into the light language. I stayed with the tonality. But if you feel like going into light language, which just is also like speaking in tongues, which is also entering in that space, that connection with God, I highly suggest it. If you feel safe and comfortable doing that, get into it, you know. And it's okay to play it on loop if you want, or even just doing the tones yourself changes things.
I found it. This is exactly what I saw.
Oh, okay, beautiful.
Okay.
So the stardust, the stardust from which we came.
Yeah, what I saw, and the colors, everything exactly.
Dark matter, activate.
Star seed. All right. Yeah, that's exactly what I had seen on that. Interesting. Let's see. So what are your closing thoughts, Kathy D, about the changing to the new paradigm, making the shift? What could we do mind-wise? Also, some activities. Is there something specifically we can do to help us to make that shift? Because I know they say a lot of us, some of us going to be, again, like I said at the beginning, going to be kicking and screaming. We don't want to kind of do it. So, there's some
there is like some, like, you know, as we get new ideas or way to look at situations, to you know, write them down, not as much journal them, but write these things down that we're getting, as to be able to then go back later on and look at them and really digest them on how we're doing it. But really and truthfully, it's a mindful exercise that we have to do. And that is, you know, one, we have to listen, you know, well, actually we have to listen to each other, not just hear the sounds that are coming out of someone's mouth. We have to literally listen to what other people are saying. We have to listen with compassion and with understanding and an open mind. By no means, you know, are you to absorb their idea, but you need to have the understanding of where they're coming from and that respect to be able then to give it back. So they'll give it back to you, because they'll mimic what you're doing. If you've ever had a child that wants to argue with you, or an adult, and if you keep your voice soft and calm, they stay, or eventually get back to soft and calm. And that's really what we have to do. We have to live the change we want to see. And, you know, like they've said on so many times, and for the last few years, one of the big things were, you know, be the change you want to see in the world. And now we're being asked to actually do that.
I want to add to that. You know, there's a lot of shifting out of old paradigm stuff, right? And a lot of people will tell you things you want to hear, but don't genuinely mean that. So use your my English teacher. The more education you have, the greater your bullshit detector. Use your bullshit detector. Sometimes people will over-sacrifice or do too much because of the old paradigm, thinking they got to be a martyr to validate their belief systems about not being good enough or XYZ. And it's okay to just call them out and say, you don't really mean that. As much as you want it to be true, you don't really mean that. And it's okay. Or I know you're talking about where you want to go, but let's talk about where we are right now and how we can get there. You know, I used to fall in love with people's highest energy, right? Not where they were, or where they're going. Or just their higher selves would come through and talk. And I loved that part the most. So I would get attached to these people that were stuck in these cycles, but it's like, you have to be realistic about where you are now. And it's cool to know where you're going. And it's okay to like let the past go or even tell the story of it. But if you get stuck in that loop or you see the emotions slipping back in, that is something that now can be released, like Kathy D is saying. You really get to listen on more than just your ears, but listen with your entire energy, your entire body, and be present for anything that comes up for you or comes up for them, and honor that with integrity. Bring it up. You know, it's okay for them to say that they're talking about being a monk and a holy person, but you just slept with 3 hoes last night. Be realistic. Just be realistic.
Oh my Lord, I got 3 in the same situation. No, I ain't no monk. No. Oh, Lord,
COVID free though. COVID free. Just saying.
Damn, be realistic with your goals and aspirations. Live in the now and now, and don't go fast forward and put what you want to. But I like how you said about the potential, because I think that's a lot of us, when we talk about twin flames, that's kind of what got us in that problem, that continuous loop of just saying, but I see in his love, and when I talk to him on the 50, and we're there, but then when I talk to him on the 3D, it's different things. So I had to stay in here for this toxic energy that he's throwing at me in this relationship, because I'm betting on this 5D self to come and be with me. And so that causes a problem as well, because it's like, no, that goes for just not even twin flames. That could be advice for soulmates. That could be advice for the regular Joe that's walking down the street. Again, you have to have that reality check. And this is what we're coming to, as far as, like you said, with this pause for the cause of us being in the situation that we are now with the pandemic, of understanding that we have to come to this point of just really being our authentic self, being able to respect one another's views, understanding that we can agree to disagree and be okay with that. And that, again, be okay with change and coming up with new viewpoints too as well. And that's what we were kind of like, not, I don't like the word stuck on stupid. Well, we were stuck on a lot of those things and we couldn't move the needle. And so we're right now, we know that we're going into the area of, again, of becoming a better version of ourselves. That's why we go through the process of being twin flames. We go through it to be a better version for other people. And then we hope that, and we know that by us doing that change, that we create a new environment in which we move and have our being in. Okay, so on that note, if you like how the ladies were throwing down, you like Kathy D and her advice, go to pineapplefishlifecoaching.com for her to get that practical 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. Right, of doing that in life. So she can really give you those steps. She's very practical. It's very easy. It's not hard. Something you're like, I gotta do that. No, she really listens to you. We talk about listening, sees the differences, see where she can help you make those changes. So go to Kathy D at pineapplefishlifecoaching.com. If you love the sounds that was resonating for this Hawaiian goddess made for this golden.com is the place that you want to go, so she can give you those meditations, get you in tune with your body, look and see what's happening with your aura, and also be able to, also she listens to you as well and can hear what your body, she listens to your body. What does your heart say? Okay, I see clearance needs to be happening right there in that heart chakra, so she can listen in that area as well. And so if you want somebody that also can listen to the cards and listen to what her guides and source tell us to do, you come see me at divinesoul7.co, and I will be able to help you as well. Please remember that we have the playground experience as well. The playground experience is not just only used, at first we thought we were going to use it just for the healing the inner child, but also we're here to service you in a nice package deal where you get all 3 of our services as well. You have to go to divineunisoul11.co as well for you to get that. So you get the spirit, you get the mind, and you'll get the body as well. So you get all 3 services right there for you to help you with every issue that you think of. It's maybe you having blocks in abundance, If you're having issues about making that paradigm shift, get what? Come see us, and we'll help you to move and shift from your spirit, your mind, and your body as well. So, also remember, in order for people to get this and get this good stuff that we're giving, we're a weekly show. So, and we come on twice. We come on today and we come on Fridays too. Whenever this YouTube uploads everything, how slow it is. Anyway, we're not going to bash YouTube, because guess what? The YouTube is going to go to another paradigm shift itself. So if you want to click, like, and share and subscribe to this channel so you can get information just like that, please come and do that for Divine Unisouls 11, so we can continue to put out shows and programs of this nature that will help you with the twin flame journey as well. All right, ladies, we know how we do it. Let's go ahead and do our closing out. We're gonna start off with our lovely Kathy D. What you got to say to the lovely people?
Wishing you your best life ever. See you soon.
All right, and April Williams.
Stay blessed, stay golden.
And with me, stay uplifted, stay motivated, stay ascending. Namaste, namago. Mwah. Love ya.
Aloha.
Next episode, and see you on the playground.